you join me with this lovely supercharged Melbourne Red E90 M3. We're obviously about to tackle the rear wheel bearings on it, hence why you clicked on this video. The main way of trying to differentiate whether it's a wheel bearing failure or especially in a rear wheel drive car, whether you've got potentially a diff issue is just by using a little bit of momentum to help you out, so swerving left and right, trying to get the car pitching quite heavily. And you know, if the sort of the noise or the vibration increases when the outside wheel is loaded, then you can, or there is just a change in noise, then you can generally pinpoint it towards a wheel bearing rather than a diff issue. So anyway, if you're here, you've diagnosed it, hey, I've got a rear wheel bearing failure. BMWs generally, they are a bit of a pain to do. Definitely one of the biggest things we'll probably come up with is getting these shafts out of the hubs. If you've worked on anything from E36 3 series up through to E92s, even F series, don't know what it is, rust, corrosion, tight tolerances on the splines, they just seize up for fun. So yeah, we're hopefully not going to have that. It's a generally pretty well cared for car. But yeah, let's get on with it. So first things first, just a quick run through. Obviously, disc, caliper, that's got to come off. Then that will access the flange. Then we've got our main 36mm 12-point hub nut there. Then moving under the car, we'll have the drive shaft bolts. And obviously, being an M3, we've got the big fat exhaust that we're going to have to remove also. So we'll get that out of the way. So yeah, what I'm really not going to spend too much time doing is putting you through the boring stuff. Obviously you came here to watch us do the rear wheel bearings. So yeah, if you're researching the job and having a look how to do it, you probably already know how to take off an exhaust, a rotor, a caliper, etc, etc. So we're just going to be flying through those. And then yeah, we'll come back when we are at the stage where we've got to get drive shaft out, and then we're starting to pull the hub flanges. Basically, yeah, pressing the bearings out and in. You can see on this car, if I just take you off the tripod, is that it's previously had the shafts out, which in one way is good, but as you can see, it's been pretty heavily mushroomed over, and then they've basically had to grind it to start a thread back onto it, which isn't a problem. Obviously, comparing it to the other side, you don't have any of that mushroomed over. I wasn't even filming, I literally did all that and I wasn't even filming, so I don't even know where I got up to, but there you go, shafts are out and undone. We'll get the rotors off and calipers off, and then yeah, we'll look to pull start pulling the flanges out and see how difficult they are to come out. Yeah, as you can hear from that noise. Certainly not the freshest sounding bearings. So, again, get these flanges off. You can do it loads of different ways. I mean, if you're not running studs, you can put a back plate on here, handbrake shoes off, and then wind some bolts through, and that will kind of pull the flange off. I like to use a slide hammer. Generally just doesn't mark and damage anything, and it's relatively clean for removing them. If you've got one, you know, if you've got a flange that has had a failed wheel bearing for quite a long time, you'll probably find that it's really nice and easy to remove, just because the heat build up, etc., will make it just so much easier to remove. Couple of threads in. And there you go. Easy as that. One flange, obviously part of the old race, which we'll talk about removing later, but just put that to one side, and then we'll go through removing the wheel bearing itself. Obviously, see, you got basically split into two. You got inner race, outer race. So the wheel bearing itself will come out towards the caliper, towards the outside of the car, the camera, sorry. Basically, first things we want to remove is this circlip. That can be really tight in there, so definitely get it loose with just a little small punch, and then get your main circlip pliers in there. So yeah, we'll do that now. And then yeah, just start freeing her up. So yeah, anyone that's seen me working around here, I mean, you obviously know I'm not massively health and safety conscious. Obviously, you know, I'm relatively good at judging risks. But yeah, when removing these bad boys, definitely a set of glasses goes a long way. You know, they've got a lot of pressure, especially when you try and get them out. If you ping and one of them goes in your eye, you'll certainly know about it. So yeah, chuck on a pair of those. So yeah, have like a set of flatheads on standby as well. It's just because, again, most of the time you find that it's seized in quite a few. There you go. So the next thing we're going to be looking at is the ABS sensors. They're just installed with a little M6 bolt. Most of them, yeah, you'll find that are really quite difficult to move. Just a bit of penetrating fluid, wiggle back and forth, and then they will slowly start to release. Try not to, you know, just, yeah, generally avoid just trying to, yeah, reduce any sort of like impact and vibrations near them. They just don't like it. A lot of them just fail just from simply removing them. That's quite common. So yeah, just a bit of penetrating fluid, wiggle, and they'll eventually come loose. So once you've got that done, then we can start moving on to getting a puller set up so we can remove that bearing. Let's crack on. Depends on how old the bearing is and how old the car is. You might want to put some heat into the steel, or put some heat into the hub, and yeah, just allow that to expand a little bit. It just helps massively with getting the wheel bearing out. But yeah, again, these have been gone for quite some time, and especially the car's, you know, not super long, so we're just going to use our puller to get that out completely. So yeah, another really useful tool which you probably can't really do without, especially doing a job like this, is a sort of a universal hub puller set. Is really good for obviously installing and removing wheel bearings. Go for the biggest size in the kit, which is an M18 kit. These are really good. They're a really cheap kit, but compared to the others, these ones come with a thrust bearing built in, and that really helps, especially when, you know, you've got a relatively cheap bit of threaded rod, zinc coated to make it look something high tensile. That really helps just reduce friction throughout there. So yeah, I mean, using the kit is pretty self-explanatory. We need to find a cut big enough that will sit up against the hub, and then either a bit of steel, something like that, or a smaller cup that's going to pull the bearing inside, like so. So that's actually the first time I've used that kit with the thrust washer on either side, and yeah, it just makes things a hell of a lot easier. It means like all your rotational force and torque goes you know, straight into tension rather than just being wasted away in friction, etc. So yeah, that's all out. We'll just give it a little clean up and then we'll get ready to install the new one in. As you saw there, yeah, it just needed a little bit of heat. It just felt a little bit tight, and again, you know, those threaded rods aren't super high tensile, probably 8.8, whatever, I don't know, some Chinesium. So yeah, we'll just give it as much chance as possible without stripping the nut through. So yeah, that's bearing out, and yeah, let's get clean and new one back in. Before putting it in, I just do a really light smear of just multi-purpose grease, and that just helps the bearings locate. Not too much, just on the entry. Helps with that circlip not getting seized up as well. One thing we got to do is also prep the flange before it goes in. Loads of different ways of getting these races off, loads and loads. Best way and quickest way I find is just to put a slit with an angle grinder, not all the way through, obviously affecting the OD of that shaft, but yeah, just going through enough. You can just get a cold chisel. Obviously these races being hardened, they will just split for fun. So yeah, just enough to get through the sort of the meat of material, and then yeah, just a cold blow, big hammer and chisel, and that usually cracks it and you can get them off. Right, so grab your biggest hammer you can find, your biggest chisel you can find, and then yeah, just go at it. Just really go at it, and yeah, put all your effort in, and eventually she'll split. Right, so once you got everything prepped to go in, there you go. So obviously, difference on this SKF bearing here, difference is you won't have the magnetic ring on one side. So that side's going in first. So just make sure that your cup is exactly the same size or a little bit smaller OD than the bearing that's going in. You want to be pushing on the outside race, not the internal of the bearing, because then you will break shit. Right, so basically once the circlip has been installed, then all we need to do is just press the flange behind me in. So one thing you got to make sure is basically that you don't, when you're pressing it in, that you don't push the inner race out. So just make sure you use a suitable size cup that will keep it in, and enable the flange to go through it. Once you've got everything finger tight, just take a trip around the back and just make sure that your sized cup isn't pressing on the magnetic ring. Cool, so that's all in. As you can hear, super smooth turning. So one thing we'll do is we'll just clean out the splines before we then obviously install the shaft. Give it all the fighting chance to keep as free as possible for years to come. Cool, so really that is the most difficult part in terms of getting the bearing in and out. Yeah, it's drive shaft time, bolt everything back up, caliper, rotor, and yeah, exhaust, and then yeah, hopefully you should have a happy wheel bearing. And yeah, last thing as well, just to add to the points we made, is yeah, just give every mounting sort of flange just a clean up. You know, BMWs are really quite common, well most cars are common, really just rusting and seizing to the mating faces, so yeah, just make sure you give everything a clean. Also, I have seen sort of wheel wobble issues due to rust build up on flanges, so just take your time. So yeah, definitely the tool of choice for doing so. Milwaukee die grinder, right angle, with yeah, just a bit of a Scotch-Brite rotary pad on it, and yeah, it just comes off so quickly and easily. Super lightweight, yeah. Super nice.